Okay, this week's theme is going to be all about something called sequential diagrams. So last week we were looking at something called signs and symbols. So hopefully we kind of understood about different signs and symbols, the categories of signs and symbols, the use of colour and shape, and the use of pictograms and ideograms to try and communicate a sign or a symbol. So this week we're going to look at sequential diagrams. So if we look at the word sequential, so it means some form of order, and then the word diagrams, we've got some kind of pictures, so they go in a particular order. So we're just going to look at the advantages they offer and different types of sequential diagrams before we start on our task. So here's a couple of examples, so we can kind of highlight a number of areas. So these are on the PowerPoint which I've attached called lesson. So if you look on this one, this is attached to the printer that used to be in the graphics room on here. So you can see on here we've got the use of numeric scores to illustrate how to get from one stage to another. We also assume that we're going from left through to right. You can see the use of arrows to indicate some kind of movement, and then on this one over here, because it's quite a complex illustration here, they've kind of zoomed in on there so we can see the detail. This one, which you might see on some of your active Evian bottles on here, there are only two sequential diagrams on here, but again this time they go from top to bottom this time. There's no numeric score to say which one goes which way, but it has got some words on here to help communicate what the message is, and then we've got use of a kind of complex arrow to illustrate some kind of motion taking place. If you look on this one, there's no numbers this time, so we're making the assumption that we're going from left through to right. But again, we've got those supporting annotations underneath to help explain what you need to be doing. But there is no use, limited use of colour on this one. If we look on this one, so it's an old mobile phone cover. So you can see on here we've got a limited colour palette, but we've got some complex movement taking place with these arrows. If we've got some really small detail, we've got something called an enlargement here. We've got a mini called an exploded view, which is kind of saying how they kind of fit together on the side. But this time again, we've got numeric scores to illustrate which stage goes where. And then this one, if you're cooking rice, this is quite a nice one. We've got some an illustration with like a little diagram here to illustrate some form of timing. Because the arrangement is not going left to right all the way across, we're kind of going left to right and then down onto the next row. They've got to use the numbers to illustrate where you need to go. And then if we look at this one, the Lufthansa card on here, I did ask before I took this, but if you look on this one, they've got this limited use of colour palette, so the colour is on the items that we need to interact with. We've got different colour for the arrows on here, and again we've got this kind of little stopwatch on the side to illustrate some form of timings on there. So on the next video, the task, you'll need to download the other attachment called descriptors. You need to select an activity from the list of tasks on there. Think carefully about how you're going to visually communicate this. We're going to think about the style of drawing, if you want to draw in 3D or if you want to draw in 2D. Then hopefully you can kind of consider the use of colours, and then hopefully we're going to ask somebody in your household, see if they can work out what it is you're trying to communicate using your sequential diagram. So it's only going to be over 5 stages. Okay.